Wind is subsided. 61-yard try for the lead. It is. Oh, he's got it. He's got it. He's got it.
And there was a call on CBS yesterday as Tyler Bass drilled a game-winning 61-yard field goal to send Buffalo into a frenzy as the Bills defeated the Dolphins 30-27 Sunday at Highmark Stadium. Happy Victory Monday, Bills Mafia. Kevin Siracuse with you here on another edition of Cuse's Corner. And now the Bills are 7-2 with a very comfortable 4-game lead in the AFC East race. Now, there was a lot that happened in that game, and there is a lot to break down. We can go player by player, play by play, the whole 9 yards. But we need to start with the Bass. We can't bury the lead because that was remarkable what happened yesterday at Highmark Stadium. And the fact that he was able to come through when it mattered most, because we know the struggles that he's seen, not only this year, but even going back to last year as well. Man, that was pretty cool. And to see the powerful moment that Josh Allen had with this post-game interview on CBS as he got emotional. And I kind of had to do a double take because that's Josh Allen, right? Like he's usually the toughest, strongest guy out there. He's a warrior. He's a captain. He's a leader. You don't really see that side of him. And then you go into the locker room and Tyler Bass got choked up. And then not only did he get choked up, but Sean McDermott was getting emotional when he gave him the game ball. And you can just see how much that meant to Bass and to the whole team. And that's just such a cool moment. And that's why sports are so awesome because, I mentioned those struggles. Not only was he 12 of 15 on field goals going into Sunday's game, he had also missed 2 extra points. He had a crucial miss in the second half during the Dolphins. And then going back to last year, probably around this time is when we started to see those struggles. I don't know what it was. I don't think there was anything physical. I think it was more just a mental side. And Bass was not that same swaggy, accurate, confident kicker that we had grown to love. And then he had the big miss in the playoffs against the Chiefs. And then you go into this offseason and the Bills didn't do anything at kicker. You go into training camp and Bass was still very shaky, perfect conditions at St. John Fisher. And I believe that there was a point in August that he was kicking 64% in beautiful 80-degree weather conditions. So, I wasn't really sure what was going on or what was going to transpire from that, but there was a lot of dead money on that contract. So, the Bills brought in Lucas Havrisek just for some extra competition, just to push him along. And the Bills, ironically enough, did release him the other day from the practice squad. And this is the kind of kick that gives you that confidence boost. That's the boost that you need for not only the rest of the season, but really for his career. Like that could have been a career saver because as much as I was just saying that there's too much dead money to move on from Bass, he was a rookie draft pick. Then the Bills gave him that extension. So you don't want to move on from him. But at the same time, it gets to a point where it's like, look, man, we love you, but we got to be able to trust you. We need you to be able to kick 5 to 10 points a game, because that's really what Bass was doing when he was at his peak, maybe even more than 10. He was really a weapon. And that's what Sean McDermott means when he says you have to win in all 3 phases when you're winning in offense, defense, and special teams. And it was only a 50-50 shot with Bass, and you were holding your breath every time he trotted out onto the field. So hopefully that's what he needed to get himself going. And it's just so cool because I saw a tweet that the 10 Lives Foundation was getting flooded with donations in the amount of $61 in honor of that field goal make. And it just feels good because not only are the Bills 7-2, usually they are getting the 61-yard field goal kicked against them. And that is the gut punch that we experience as Bills fans, where it's like, how in the world did he make a 60-plus yard field goal as time expired? Now, granted, there were 5 seconds left, so I was like, okay, it's not over yet. Let's calm down here. Got to play some very good prevent defense, and the Bills did. But usually the shoe is on the other foot, no pun intended. But it just feels good to get one. And that was actually the longest field goal in Bills history. I was very shocked when I saw that because I just thought that with this storied history that there were a lot of kickers who probably kicked more than 61 yards. But it was Nick Veronica who said Tyler Bass's game-winning 61-yard kick was the longest field goal in Bills history. Steve Christie had the record with the 59-yarder in 1993. Bass's career-long entering yesterday was 58. And now Bass sets a record. So awesome feel-good moment for him, and let's just hope that it can continue. Now, as for the rest of the game, let's look at some of these stats that I tweeted after the game because it is just mind-boggling how Buffalo has had their way with this team over the last 8 years, really, since Sean McDermott took over as Bills head coach, because you'll see with that first stat there, McDermott now has a 15-2 career record against the Dolphins, and that includes the playoffs. Likewise, Josh Allen is now 13-2 against the Dolphins. Miami has still not won in Buffalo since 2016, and one of my favorite ones here, Jalen Ramsey is now 0-7 versus Josh Allen ever since calling him trash. Now, speaking of Ramsey, I guess that's a good place to start because the Bills' offense had no rhythm in that first quarter. So the score was tied at 3 going into the second quarter. And then just a few minutes in, it looked like the Bills finally found themselves, and Keon Coleman had a guaranteed touchdown, but that touchdown turned into an interception into the hands of Ramsey. And then the Dolphins went on a 14-play, 97-yard drive that took over 8 minutes of clock, and then they went down and scored with Devon Achane. So that was a 14-point swing right there. The Bills get the ball back, and two of the most egregious holding calls that you will ever see, one on Deion Dawkins, then one on Osiris Torrance. And that one on Torrance was what wiped away a Josh Allen rushing touchdown. So then the Bills had to settle for 3 points. So the score was 10-6 going into halftime. And then, like they always do, the Bills made some key adjustments. And coming out of the half, the Dolphins get the ball. Taron Johnson, who was banged up during the game, luckily he was not severely injured because he made a great play on the ball, punching it out. Kyer Elam with the recovery. The Bills go down 11 plays, 64 yards, and it was 4th and goal from the 1. I love the aggressiveness from Sean McDermott. He leaves his offense out there, and Josh Allen connects with Mac Allen on that 1-yard touchdown pass. Now, that is where Tyler Bass missed the extra point. So then the Dolphins go down and get a field goal, and the score is 13-12. Bills go on a 2-play, 70-yard drive that took 52 seconds, and that was because Ray Davis had the longest receiving touchdown by a running back since C.J. Spiller in 2012, as he hauled in a 63-yard pass to put the Bills up 18-13. Keon Coleman redeemed himself, caught the 2-point conversion, so then we're looking at a 20-13 score. And then from there on out, the teams were just exchanging touchdowns for a couple of drives there. And credit to the Dolphins because they were playing in desperation mode. And I thought that they had a very good game plan and they executed it. And they gave the Bills everything they had. So they go down and score 9 plays, 70 yards, took almost 5 minutes to clock. Then the Bills go on a 10-play, 70-yard drive that took almost 6 minutes to clock. And then they scored to go up 27-20. Dolphins come back 11 plays, 81 yards, 4 minutes and 40 seconds off the clock. So it's all knotted up at 27, and that's when the Bills went down to get that field goal. Now, I want to talk about that drive a little bit because if the Bills didn't play their cards right, and really, I don't think they did, they kind of got lucky. They got bailed out by Jordan Poyer, who still helped the Bills win. But Poyer got called on that helmet-to-helmet with Keon Coleman, and hopefully there's not a severe injury there. We'll get the diagnosis, or we'll at least get more of an update later today from Sean McDermott, because I hope that's nothing long-term with Coleman's wrist. The Bills have had plenty of wrist injuries. I don't know what's going on with these wrist injuries, but let's just hope for the best with Coleman. But Poyer bailed the Bills out because I really didn't like that play calling. You know, there's a minute 38 left when they got the ball back. And as much as you want to hurry up and try to get down the field, you also have to balance that fine line of not being too quick, because then if you don't convert on 3rd down, you're giving the Dolphins the ball back, and it's Jason Sanders who could drill that game-winning field goal and send you home in defeat. So, I didn't really like the play calls there. Josh Allen, whether it was him or Brady, I felt like they were just trying to get too much too quick. And the run game was working. I wanted to see them use Ray Davis a little bit in that situation, maybe James Cook. And even if they didn't want to resort to the running game, just do 5-10 quick out routes, right? Just curls or slants or something just to move the chains. And that way it's a nice happy medium. But as I said, Poyer bailed them out. And that's what gave the Bills field position in order for Tyler Bass to make that field goal. And I might be in the minority here, but I think that it was better that it was a 61-yarder as opposed to, let's just say, a 41-yarder, because there wasn't as much pressure on him. You're not expected to drill a 61-yarder the same way that you are a 41-yarder. So I'm thinking that Bass was just able to go out there, wind up, boot it, and hope for the best. And that's exactly what happened, as the Bills are now 7-2. Now, that being said, tomorrow is the NFL trade deadline at 4 o'clock. So it'll be interesting to see what Brandon Beane decides to do to bolster this team. I think there will be at least 1 or 2 more moves, especially depending on the severity of Coleman's injury. If he's out for a few weeks, the Bills seriously might have to acquire another wide receiver. Now, they already got the big fish. They already got the big ticket item with Amari Cooper. So I'm not expecting anything big. People are saying, oh, go get Myles Garrett or Budda Baker. I don't think that's happening. I think these are just going to be more depth and role players to help bolster this team. Maybe they look at defensive line. The Bills did get gashed on the line yesterday, gave up a lot of rushing yards. I know you want to play the Dolphins a certain way where it's like, okay, we'll give you those rushing yards, but you're not going to beat us over the top. Tyreek Hill's not going to go for an 80-yard touchdown against us. But I think that they could look to add another edge rusher, maybe defensive tackle, and then safety as well. But either way, you just got to keep going 1-0 each week, and the Bills will look to do that next Sunday in Indianapolis for a 1 p.m. kickoff. Thank you for watching another edition of Cuse's Corner. I will be back next week, hopefully on another Victory Monday, to talk about the 8-2 Buffalo Bills hosting the Kansas City Chiefs on November 17th. Make sure you follow my channel at Kevin Siracuse. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Kevin_Syracuse. And make sure that you subscribe to Built in Buffalo and follow us along on all of our platforms as well.